Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Wednesday, the 18th of October, 2023, and this is program number 1074 of the Lunchroom, and I'm your host, Alex George Jr. And in addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can also follow us live on our YouTube page. I believe it is up and running. And of course, you can just search for Radio Caribbean International YouTube and you'll be able to follow us right there. Now, of course, if you want to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. You can also message in via our WhatsApp platform. That number is 724-0008. You can also call in to that WhatsApp number as well, if you so choose. And that number again is 724-0008. Now, today, a bit of history. In the year 1009, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem was destroyed by the Fatimid Caliph Al-Hakim bi-Amir Allah, who hacked the church's foundations down to the bedrock. In the year 1685, French King Louis XIV revokes the Edict of Nantes, cancelling rights of French Protestants. 1867 on this day saw the Alaskan Purchase, and that was where the United States took formal possession of Alaska from Russia, having paid $7.2 million. 1922 on this day, October the 18th, saw the British Broadcasting Company, or the BBC, being founded. It was later called the British Broadcasting Corporation. 1962 on this day, James Watson of the United States and Francis Crick of the United Kingdom, as well as Maurice Wilkins of the United Kingdom, won the Nobel Prize for Medicine for their work in determining the structure of DNA. And in 1968 on this day, U.S. Olympic Committee suspends Tommy Smith and John Carlos for giving the Black Power salute to protest racism and injustice against African Americans during the Olympic medal ceremony. And for our dish of the day, we're going to be speaking about some fire, bringing fire through the Foundation for the Improvement of Rastafari Elders. And we're going to be speaking to two representatives of their public relations team and telling us about this organization and some of the efforts that they are working on at this time. Now, we're going to head across to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+ tip. All kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to my nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lance Road in Castries, Bossy Joux, Grosile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, The Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Again, our apologies for not being able to come to you yesterday, but we'll be on for the rest of the week, God willing. Now, today we're going to be discussing with two representatives of a relatively new, I would say, entity towards the advancement of Rastafari, in particular that of Rastafari Elders. And it's actually called the Foundation for the Improvement of Rastafari Elders. The acronym there is FIRE. And so very pleased to have the two gentlemen joining me here in studio to guide that conversation along, give us a sense as to what that foundation is in fact looking to do. And first and foremost, some simplicity, as I know him as, Mr. Michael Mathre. And of course, you may also know him in terms of his contributions to the St. Lucia music scene, and in particular, Kaiso here in St. Lucia. Welcome. And of course, Mr. Dossery as well, who is part of the that same foundation for the improvement of Rastafari Elders. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us here at the Lunchroom. Welcome.
Greetings. brethren and sistren. Greetings, brethren and sistren. In the name of His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie. That program really came from fire because we felt it necessary to celebrate Rastas in St. Lucia. No organization have ever done that because what we did, we sat down and we planned the event in Rastafari calendar, and we have a total calendar, and we realized that Rasta was introduced, to say it was there before, but it was really introduced in 1978, October 28th. So we used that month as a celebration of Rasta in St. Lucia. You know what I mean? So we're the first organization agitating for that. What we really trying to show the brethren is that where we were and where we are today, Rastafari would like interactions of other brothers who feel call and edify more. But the doctor will give a next introduction of why Rastafari. Take care.
Now, what happened on that date, though? You mentioned a specific date, October the 28th, 1978. Why do you see that as the sort of the starting point for the introduction of Rastafari in St. Lucia?
Okay, as my brother Simplicity, and hello to everybody in Radio Land, Lucius Doxery Sr., to differentiate from
of course,
Lucius Doxery Jr.
Who's over in Morocco.
In Morocco. Yeah. So as Simplicity said, Rastafari had founded its roots in St. Lucia before 1978. But in 78, we held, that was our first major outing, and by that I mean we had this major event we dubbed Ital Rama. Okay. And that was held at the Georgia Fifth Gardens. And that was heavily attended, huge turnout by people from all walks of life. And as the term goes, Ital Rama, it was a place where we cooked up a lot of ital, meaning vegetarian meals and dishes, as well as a lot of local juices from you name it, we had it then. And at the time, because Rastafari in general was heavily oppressed by the system, you found that the unity was indeed really very strong. Because as we know, usually, historically, when people are oppressed, they really bind together. And for some reason, if there is less oppression, and I want to put that in quotations because it is not really a truism or a global truth, but it's just that kind of reality where when you're oppressed, for some reason, you come together a lot more. So tons or loads of Rastafarians from all over St. Lucia, and of course the people who sympathizers came to the Georgia Fifth Park and celebrated with us this Ital Rama. So that is why we have turned this day into a day where we look at the quote-unquote coming out of the Rastafari community, not necessarily its establishment in St. Lucia.
Mm. Now, it's interesting that date that you're talking about. Was that a Sunday, a Saturday? And the reason why I'm asking is because it seems to fall so very close, of course, to Journée Creole.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was. I think we had a weekend. It was a weekend celebration.
It celebrated a Sunday. It culminated on a Sunday.
Yes.
Okay.
Where we had a whole day celebration, and it was so loving. Them time there, brothers, Rasta wasn't segmentized. We didn't know nothing like 12 tribe, no Bobo, no Bengue. We were just Rastafarians. The only thing at the time that we were gravitating towards religion. Not our fault because most of us were Christians, and especially in Jamaica, most of them early Rastaman in Jamaica were from Pukominia. So man used to look at the Bible. But if right now we have grown and realized that the Bible is true, we are using the Bible is part of colonialism. We have to face the reality. You have to look to Africa for your redemption. So more and more Rastas and them getting more bright. So what we saying that the segmentism, we're trying to mash it up and show Rasta is one. And the purpose of Rasta is not to fight down your race. Not to fight down your race. You must realize your purpose. Your purpose is a calling. When Marcus Garvey talk about look to Africa, because in his time, the people didn't understand the philosophy of Marcus Garvey. The indignation we are facing as black people was so bad. And we have to give Marcus Garvey what he owns because he's the only black man that brought the biggest dedication together up to now, and he did that in time of colonialism. So when His Majesty was born and the Jamaicans looked to Ethiopia, it wasn't no religiosity. It was the respect of the words of Marcus Garvey. Protest for your race, because up to now we're still a downtrodden race. To protest for equal playing field of your race. That was the purpose of Rastafari. Rastafari not there to divide one another and to preach religiosity. It's true, His Majesty say, respect among religion. Because the man say in all religion there's what they call, I would say, morality within it. But you must look to your own and establish your own. That's the whole problem with us. We westernize ourselves as Rastas. So we accent that we try to de-westernize ourselves. And the first phase is Christianity. It divides us the most. That's why some of us are Bengi, some of us are 12 tribe, some of us are Vuvu. And when you go among them, man, it's pure Christianity they're preaching. Brothers, we're not denouncing your ideology or your philosophy. But look within yourself and study Rastafarianism more. Rastafari, Selassie.
Now, you're of course raising this issue of division, and I think it's something that we see in nearly every religion around the world. Everybody ends up in dividing, and you see it in Christianity. We've got perhaps thousands of different denominations there. You see it in Judaism. You see so many different, the Orthodox and Reformed, and even in Hinduism, in Islam. It's very, very difficult to be able to hold together when you see that. I'm very interested in how large is the current population of Rastafari in St. Lucia. Is there a sense as to how many people are actually following Rastafari?
I'll tell you one thing. We had a problem. We always say, let's census the Rastafarian to see how many. But through religion, some fellas say a certain time Solomon check the nation, and the nation blight, and the nation dies. So fellas do that as some
They don't want to be counted.
A curse. All miss philosophy and miss guy. So brothers, we don't laugh at that. But I'll tell you, the whole problem is starting in St. Lucia, If we have to go history and go in Jamaica, you have to go and read that book by Alan Lewis, Rex Nuttleforth, and the other St. Lucian, OG, where they were commissioned to come on, and they telling the problem of the Rastafari in Jamaica was a lot of illiteracy. Everybody did not understand the whole thing of His Majesty, because a lot of them emulated Rasta, and they were illiterate because they were the downtrodden, because it was so manipulative for them man in Jamaica that in the 50s a certain one tell them 10 miles of Rasta land will just land to pick them up. They never buy a boat, they never have no organization. All they say you needed was a picture of His Majesty. All man in Jamaica, ignorant man, sell their goats, sell their cows, and every man end up in Kingston. When they realize that was a problem, then it stay how many days did that cause a problem? The police start to fight with Rasta. Their division really started in Rasta, Then when the police every month start to take, Emmanuel take a portion, Leonard take a portion, this one take a portion, because it was a whole misunderstanding. And the brethren telling, because what money had them for, they thought Rasta was some realistic thing, but when they send these guys realized that these guys took that Poca Minya thing and bring it in Rasta, expecting to see some illusion. You expect me never buy a boat, you go see 10 miles of Black Star Liner. Marcus Garvey bought boats. He raised money and he bought boats. He was the whole problem. He was even scammed by his own people, because the last boat he bought, the white man cheat him, and the Americans used that and say he was collecting money on a false pretense and make him a personal non-grata, run him out of America. Up to now, the reality is that Marcus Garvey got deported on a falsification.
Simplicity, share with us your journey a little bit as to how you became a Rastafari.
My brethren, I went to school. I went to comprehensive school. Then from comprehensive, before that, they had what they call Jomo Primus. Them man had the Black Power movements in Baccarat. My father didn't want me to go by this one with the same color of other man, Ken Kronkuma, color of Marcus Garvey. Jomo paint his house. When you're good, people used to cut low. That's the first man I used smoking man. People used to call it a criminal when you go there. The man had the Black Power movements. Now from there, a little consciousness. So when I started to go to comprehensive, the first man that brought consciousness to me was a a Quaker man, a man called Meyer. That's the first one that taught me about Marcus Garvey and taught me about Nani and taught me about Paul Bogle. He was a Quaker. Then I started to get conscious. And
He was from Jamaica?
No, he was, that's when the comprehensive school just opened. He was a Quaker.
So he came from the U.S.?
No, Canada.
Canada.
And he used to teach us.
Okay.
But he was a Quaker. He
Yes.
taught us, because when I go to school, I never know about Marcus Garvey, I never know about Paul Bogle. But he used to put us.
So that was nowhere on the curriculum and no
white
books
boy
that were
used to
being
teach
taught.
us
Right?
that. The white boy used to teach us that because he was a Quaker. And he even taught us, about the whole slave trade, how it was the Quakers first that started to protest against Wilberforce and these guys, you know what I mean? But according to the history, black people never won their emancipation, or it was bought, you know. The abolitionists never won the case. The Queen had to pay, the Queen had to buy our
20 million pounds.
Well, you know the history.
Yeah.
So at least these things got me conscious that I started to go by a certain man that was preaching Rasta, but the real Rasta preaching was Christianity. I used to go by Shalom, by, what's the man name? Black youth man, used to be Cable Wallace. The man was preaching Rasta, so I used to go there. And I became a subversive element. Even in school, through that, I started smoking marijuana in school, and my name used to mention. And after a while, I left Company, I went to the Mount Technical, and I put my locks, they threw me out. That's 1976. Then at the beginning, my mother and my father threw me out too. I was on the street because at that time people didn't understand. Even I was lost too, because I was looking at Rasta as some kind of Christian thing. But when I get to learn, Rasta is the teachings of Haile Selassie. The foundation, the element of Rasta is the teaching of His Majesty. Because if you go in the Oxford Dictionary today, you see the meaning of Rastafarian as the followers of Haile Selassie. And if you're a Rastafarian, as we all know, there's what they call the Third Testament, the speeches of His Majesty, which are so effective today that maybe Brother Abdai will edify a little more towards that. That's where you have to look for your inspiration as a Rastaman. Not in that Bible, that Western Bible. Not in that. The Third Testament, the teaching of His Majesty. Education is the gateway to everlasting enlightenment. That's the words of His Majesty. Rastafari. But the Doctor will take it a little further.
Mr. Doxery, of course, I'm not sure if you want to share a little bit of your own journey of how you, in fact, came to be a part or an adherent to the Rastafarian faith.
Yeah, I think that's important. For my part, I was at SMC, St. Mary's College, and of course I left SMC in 77, and by 78 I had my dreads on. But of course the fire was already being lit from the 76 thereabout. And for me, it was a spiritual thing. If one reads Khalil Gibran, the prophet, he spoke in his book about a certain movement, and he was not describing Rastafari, but the analogy is similar. He was speaking about a certain spiritual something that had crossed the paths of in a particular country, and a lot of people were moving towards it. I can't recall, it's a while since I've read that book, but the point being, at that time, there was some natural mystic blowing through the air, and it was catching people, not unawares, but you were gravitating to it. Even if I had much thought, it was like attracting you. Because at that time, mainly in the main, you were Roman Catholic. That's what your parents were, and they brought you along with them. You didn't feel the vibes, but you went because, you're an obedient boy or girl, as the case may be. But there was no attraction. And so we were seeking other things at the time. So along came Rastafari, and through Bob Marley, and through Peter Tosh, and through the reggae legends in that era. So we were following that vibe. They were teaching us about things. We were hearing the vibes, and we loved it. And they were Rastafarians. They coined themselves as Rastas, the Bonnie Wheelers and endless of them, the Uroys. So that message through the music really attracted us. And so we followed. Later on, of course, we were able to learn a lot more as we moved on. But that was the first magnet that pulled us towards this new philosophy. And we say what we learn is not what we were taught at school, the formal education system. We learned a lot more from them. Now, the foundation for all of those, or most of them anyway, happen to have been the Bible. Truth be told, that's where they quoted the Bible, the cultures and all of them, they quoted the Bible all the time, right? And I mean, for simplicity, and I will debate a little bit on that, and we can respectfully do that, because His Majesty said too, and it is right, you do the research on Google, the oldest version of the Bible is in Ethiopia. It is who taught us about the Bible and how we were taught is really what I think is the key difference. It's not the book itself, and yes, the book is not foolproof. And if you are wise, then you can discern for yourself what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Because that book, the King James Version in particular, which is not the book that is in Ethiopia, because Ethiopia has the oldest version of the Bible. So a lot of the Bibles, in fact, the Bible that we currently use, the King James Version, is about 1,000 versions later, if not more than 1,000 versions later, that document called the King James Version. So I say all that to say, and that's what the guys used anyway at the time, that's what we had. But it still pulled out a lot of vibes from us, because I can remember questioning very openly, the book telling you, don't call anyone father, but we were taught, at challenging them about that. They really had no answer to that, because here's a book that says, call no man your father, because one is your father, and then you have me call your father this and father that. So out of the Bible, we're able to challenge a lot of even the Bible that they presented to us. When we were able to educate ourselves through reading it, we were able to question them a lot of things that they had no answers to, right? And so my journey was through that, but it was a journey of discovery. First, you got drawn to the vibe, but then as time went on, you discovered more and more and more and more. And what it led you to do, because the whole concept of Rastafari was that God is black. That's what it was. And this was very revolutionary to think, because all along there was this white Jesus Christ that was portrayed in the Bible. When I say in the Bible, there was the only two descriptions of Christ in the Bible are in Daniel and in Revelation. And both of them refer to him as burnished bronze when you saw his feet and so on. So even that we were able to challenge them about as well. So, but the fact that if they taught you rather than you teaching yourself and you went along with them, you got to worship a white God, right? So that revolution into now knowing that God is black was a game changer for us as Rastafari. And then, of course, His Imperial Majesty. And then learning too that His Imperial Majesty was a 225th descendant from the tribe of David. And then knowing that Ethiopia too was the only country never to be colonized. And then knowing too that in all of the world, the only people who really they actually lived a life similar to that of King Solomon, were in Ethiopia and East Africa, in Eritrea, in Ethiopia, the Falashas, in Somalia, and so on. So we then really got to consolidate our thoughts and our philosophy about not only the Bible, but about life, that our history, because the history that we were taught is like from slavery, we were slaves. But pre-slavery, we didn't know that. We taught ourselves that. So Rastafari taught us about Pan-Africanism, enter Marcus Garvey, into the whole, concept and so on. And so it made us a lot more conscious. And as a result of that, Calix, here's what happened. And I think that's very important for us to note. It made us a different people. It built in us a different character as Rastafarians. We began to love our sisters. And I want to say it here. I'm married for 40 years here. And it's because I'm a Rastafarian. I had that respect and love for my sister, for my brothers, for my everybody. And by that I mean, you're black, you're my brother. You're black, you're my sister. Now, that does not mean to say in any which way that if you're white, I don't love you similarly. But because I understood the history of our black people through the 400 years plus of slavery, it hasn't really ended to a great extent, if you ask me, but it allowed me to be conscious of myself. So before I became a Rastafarian, when I saw quote-unquote white people, and there are no real white people if you look at color, but I said quote-unquote, I would feel inferior. But when I got to know myself as a Rastaman, that inferiority complex disappeared. I was proud and sure of myself. And that leads me to a lot of other things, and I can go on to education. So I really believe that when you know yourself, you know your history as a black person, and the reason we are focusing on that is the black people are the dregs of the earth. We know that. You know, I went to school in the UK and other places. I've traveled a lot of places in the world. And we know by virtue of our complexion, that alone makes you second class. And it still happens as we speak. So it gave me a particular love for my people, not to be disparaging any other race. So that is why I have a serious issue with people who look down on the black sisters and that thing and that thing last night and you see that thing, you know, and so on, and the music that denigrates our people. And I can't deal with that. You know, I would like to see that change. You love your sisters. You love your people. They have gone through a whole heap of suffering. It's time to embrace them. Don't look at them as that thing over there and that thing down there and who you having and who you know, and the whole issue of sexual relationship, how you have to have respect for your sisters and all of that kind of thing. And even, you know, so that is what Rastafari brought to me. A whole change in my way of life and my way of living and my understanding of who I am as a black person and what I would like to give back because of that knowledge.
Thank you so very much for sharing with us that journey indeed. We actually have to take a break for our weather report. So we're going to wrap up this segment, this dish of the day, to go across to taking our weather report. And then when we come back, we continue to have that conversation, of course, about fire. We've been speaking to two representatives of the Foundation for the Improvement of Rastafari Elders. It's called, acronym is FIRE. And we've been speaking to Mr. Michael Mathre of Simplicity, as well as Mr. Lucius Doxery Sr., and they, of course, will be continuing to be our guests here on the Lunchroom at Radio Caribbean International.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tells for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tells for your balcony. Come down to Tells Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tells Plus, Tells Plus, Tells Plus. Big tells with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tests. Come down to Tells Plus. We also got gas and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tells on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Ju Grizzly, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tells Plus.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and things, sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
Hurricane season can be unpredictable, but your business doesn't have to be. In the face of adversity, you need a partner that goes above and beyond. Choose the path of resilience and certainty with CNW Business. Through disaster recovery as a strategy solution, CNW Business will safeguard your critical data, maintain seamless communication channels, and help you bounce back faster than ever before. Visit our website, cwcbusiness.com/myopenbusiness to learn more. Remember, a safe business is an open business.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's what, of course, on the 1.1. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Side, Talon Bath, and Flow. The forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from the east near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. The weather partly cloudy skies becoming cloudy at times with a few scattered showers and a slight chance of isolated thunderstorms. Forecast for the Lesser Antilles, partly cloudy to cloudy at times with widely scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. We now move over to the tropical weather outlook. A mid to upper level trough will continue to cause some clouded periods with scattered showers and possibly isolated thunderstorms over parts of the Lesser Antilles during the forecast period. A broad area of low pressure located about 850 miles or 1,368 kilometers east of the Windward Islands has a high chance of tropical cyclone formation during the next 48 hours. The system is moving westward to west-northwest and is expected to be in the vicinity of the Lesser Antilles by Friday. Interested in the region are advised to monitor the progress of the system. And this was your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style, Talent Bath and Flow.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island Style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and insets, mixes and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality rice, service choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus, Rodney Bay, on the John Crompton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
Hurricane season can be unpredictable, but your business doesn't have to be. In the face of adversity, you need a partner that goes above and beyond. Choose the path of resilience and certainty with C&W Business. Through disaster recovery as a strategy solution, C&W Business will safeguard your critical data, maintain seamless communication channels, and help you bounce back faster than ever before. Visit our website, cwcbusiness.com/myopenbusiness to learn more. Remember, a safe business is an open business.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. We've got about 24 minutes to go before the hour of 2 o'clock. And we have been discussing Rastafari in St. Lucia and the efforts of the Foundation for the Improvement of Rastafari Elders. It's an acronym for FIRE. And, of course, we've been speaking with Mr. Michael Mathre, Simplicity, as well as Mr. Lucius Doxury, Senior, who are members of the public relations team for FIRE. And we've been having a very interesting conversation about the journey, your own personal journeys as well, as to what attracted you to Rastafari. And Simplicity, of course, you were pointing out the challenges, of course, of division, and we're speaking a little bit about some of the successes of the past in terms of even newspapers that you actually used to produce.
Yeah, but that's why we're celebrating that month as Rasta month, because after the Ground Lighter Rama, man from an organization called IREA, Ionola Improvement for Rasta, how is it? IREA,
Ionola Rastafari
Improvement Association, Ionola Rasta Improvement Association, and from there we started doing good. We started organizing different events to raise money. Then we decided to have a newspaper. We had a football team. We had a cricket team. We even started drama. We were together. We were not divided. All Rastaman was contributed. The newspaper was going up nice, everything. Then I don't know what transpired. Certain man go Jamaica and come back and say, organization is making sense. And mash up the whole organization and bring us to nothing. You know what I mean? Man start to hallucinate that what I see and illusion. When you tell me just go in the hills and you beating drum and you saying Paul go die, Elizabeth, up now them people die. Endless Rastaman that used to be in that gets COPD because they used to be in the dust. Brothers, excuse me, all used to be in the dust, jumping up and smoking within them dust. I used to come there and see the hazardous. Plus, the tabernacle was built wrong. It never had a chimney. The smoke is up to now. If you all been a tabernacle, build it better. But we're not fighting down the brethren because that's the whole thing that segmentized Rasta. So that's why we're celebrating Rasta month, to show the Rastas in St. Lucia that we were once one unit. And no matter if we are divided by number, we could still be one unit. You could be preaching what you want, but we're still one unit to defend the rights of black people. Rastafari. Brother Abdai will elaborate.
Yeah, and I want to talk about fire. Why was fire established? Really, when we looked around, we realized that, of course, you will age eventually. Some of us, of course, some die young as well. But a lot of the brothers, or a lot of us, when we pass, then there is nothing or not enough for us to even bury ourselves, our brethren. So we have decided that we need to establish this organization so we could tend to each other, take care of each other, see how much we could help each other, with an emphasis on agriculture, right? Food to prevent food scarcity and so on, health and nutrition, and also to really try to have a voice in the community, speak on local, regional, and international issues, because that pertains to us. We live in a global street, I see, no longer a global village, but a global street, because the world has become so small. So we want to have a voice to speak on behalf of the downtrodden. Rasta has always been that, speaking on behalf of the downtrodden. That's our role. So back quickly to the paper that my brother Simplicity spoke to. We had a thriving newspaper at one time called Calling Rastafari. As a matter of fact, when I went to Jamaica in 1992 university and went to the library, I found copies of that paper in the library. I think that was one of the first Rastafarian papers almost in the Caribbean. And I'm not too sure if it's globally, but that paper was, going far and wide. And that paper used to be picked up very quickly off the shelves. We had persons that we would remunerate X amount when they sold a paper, and the papers used to go. The paper disappeared for various reasons, one of which being, or the main reason being, the late printing, because the paper used to be the bestseller, better than The Voice and better than whatever else, because we were there. And so I figured what our publisher realized, well, if you print the paper really late, when all the other papers sold out, then the paper would eventually die. So that's one of the key reasons, because I was involved in really putting the paper together. From the very beginning until the very last paper was printed, I was involved from that time in the 80s. All right? Now, I want to also speak to the whole issue of unity, and you have the issue of black supremacy or white supremacy in Rastafari and so on. And to quote His Majesty and to see if we can unpack what His Majesty said. And this is a quote from His Majesty, Haile Selassie I. He said, "We must become bigger than we have been, more courageous, greater in spirit, larger in outlook. We must become members of a new race," and that's important, members of a new race, "overcoming petty prejudice, owing our ultimate allegiance not to nations," note that, not to nations, but to our fellow men within the human community. When you unpack that, no allegiance to nations, no allegiance to states, no allegiance to anything or but to your fellow human being. So religion is extracted out of that equation. It no longer becomes important. So even the issue of black supremacy, we don't preach that, right? We preach being good to your fellow human being. And that's the key. That's what we want, right? So that's what we're all about, we're as Rastafarians. Because His Majesty also said, until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of a man's eye, it's going to be war again, dissing the whole issue of race and state and this and that. So that's what Rastafari is about. And that's what we should about. And then we have what you call, and my brother alluded to it earlier on, the Third Testament. These are documented speeches, and people can get online, of His Majesty. And any nation, any individual who subscribes to the philosophies therein, meaning within that Third Testament, is peace on earth. He spoke to, and the thing is, it's very modern, or postmodern, if you will, in that it speaks to agriculture, education, religion, diplomacy, the UN, and everything.
The nuclear weapons.
Everything. So within that text, the Third Testament, right, is every good principle that one would ever want to ensure equality among people and love and peace among people. So that's what we subscribe to. We subscribe to this thing where we go beyond the nation state. We subscribe to beyond the color of your skin or the color of your eyes. We just want to be good to one another. And so how many years later have
After 45 years now, since you would say that we've been established in St. Lucia, are you satisfied at the level of progress, of consciousness, of awakening that exists in the St. Lucian population today?
My brother, we have a problem. I remember the great Alpha Lewis talking about when we got leaders from the Caribbean would have been better, and the leaders would understand more and would have been drifting more from the colonial trend. But I don't see that. I see some of the leaders that got educated in the Caribbean, they come with more colonial stand. Up to now, some of us still suffering from constitutional reform. We still have the same colonial constitution. I don't want to blame nobody or mention nobody name, but the young youth that go to university in the Caribbean, time to change our approach, and not only change our approach, I talking about universally black people need a renaissance. Now if you understand what a renaissance, that's how the Europeans modify themselves, they change the way of thinking, you know what I mean? Black people, what you inherit is what you was taught. Try to set up your own. You need a renaissance, a total revolution of what you was taught, how you approach life, how you approach each other, because that's the only race today that don't practice racial solidarity. When you go place like America, you go with Chinatown, you go with India town, you can't meet no black man town. When you go black man town, is their solution, drugs, you know, and it's a manipulation of the West, right? Because they will consider us to be children of states. And remember, we didn't come here on holiday. We didn't come here as immigrants. We came here banded to work hard. Work hard for people to establish their economical wealth. Today, that's why we're suffering today. Because they never give us back nothing. Nothing. Yes, I.
Yeah, I want to add a little something to what Simplicity has said there. It has to do with education and renaissance, the revival of learning. Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, and I've always said so, build 1,000 police stations, build or add 10,000 more policemen. Crime will not stop, in my opinion. If you look at the developed or the so-called first world states, the cameras littered all over the place. Check what's happening in Chicago, in California, even in New York, crime, right? It still happens. I'm not saying it's not a deterrent. I think it is, to some extent, at least to catch the person when they have perpetrated the crime. But my point is, and it comes from my own influence as well, knowing myself through the teachings of Rastafari has changed my ideology and my way of life and my idiosyncrasy as well. So I treat people differently. I love my sisters. What's the point? The point being that we have called for that for many a year, revamping the education system in St. Lucia and the region. Let people know of the history pre-slavery. Let people know of the Dogons who into astrology way before. Let people know of our Egyptian ancestors who, mathematics. A lot of everything in this world today is as a result of initiatives by people of our race, right? And we don't know that. So we are not proud of ourselves. So we need to start with re-educating ourselves. There's a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. Can't remember the author now, but that's in my library. But that is very important. If people are not educated correctly, and my brother spoke about the colonialism and now the neo-colonialism, we need to re-educate ourselves to know who we are so that we have a different outlook. That's what happened to me. If I had not re-educated myself, I would have not been the whole person that I am right now.
We saw Marcus Garvey coming in at the time that he did, and he was certainly not, in any way held into one country. He was, he saw himself as a mission for the entire world. Do you feel that there is that level of organization, or do you feel that it might be missing, that you don't have this pan-African across all countries in terms of the unification of a lot of these movements, this African diaspora that you have? I mean, who's really leading the charge at this time?
Now, I'm glad that you asked that, because there is some hope. I need not leave here portraying the sentiment that nothing is happening and to leave a dull moment in the minds of those who are listening to us right now. Currently, and I'm happy to be living at this time, when I know, because I say metaphorically that I live in Africa. Why? Because I follow what's happening on the continent, almost every day. And so there are a lot of there is an organization called the African Diaspora Development Institute, ADDI, and one of the key proponents of this group is Dr. Arikana Shiombori. And I urge people who are listening, Arikana as in Arikana, Shihombori as in Chihombore. You just Google this and you'll get endless information. In other words, and to your question directly, a lot is happening in terms of progressing and promoting the Pan-African ideology. Only not too long ago, and by not too long ago, and Amir Motley is very much involved in that movement. Some people have the opinions of her, granted, but she's very much involved in this connecting of the peoples of African descent globally. And you have the Afri-Exim Import Bank that is very much alive and playing a critical role in cementing black peoples globally. Recently there was this discussion with the son of Marcus Garvey alongside the granddaughter of His Imperial Majesty, right? And no, the daughter of Kwame, the late Kwame Nkrumah.
Nkrumah, okay.
Right. And they were just talking about how happy they were with that Pan-African movement. We have seen flights coming out of Ghana to Barbados. So there is a lot of movement afoot to really cement that Pan-African ideology in a very practical way. So a lot is happening on the ground. So I'm a member of ADI, an inactive member, I must say passive, but we can actually become part of these organizations. And they're talking about the African credit card, where rather than use the traditional credit cards from the US, you can subscribe to that and buy your things and do your things that way. So a lot is happening. Now there are players who don't want to see these things happen. The neo-colonialists, for obvious reasons. But as I said, in fact, and let me just give an example of what I mean by that new thinking that is going on there in a very active way on the continent and across the globe. There were three coups recently in Africa, Niger and two other places. Burkina Faso, and I think it was not Mali. And Dr. Shiombori said, these are not traditional coups, and we need not call them coups. These are uprisings. In other words, people are becoming conscious and were overthrowing or keen on overthrowing the oppressors.
Also in Gabon, I think there's another coup.
Right. So in other words, there is a new thinking about those things. So before, if the Western world described it as cool, we went along with it. But no longer the case. And you're seeing a lot of podcasters all over Africa really speaking to that African unity and disenfranchising themselves from the West and really moving a new way. So as I said, there will always be the counteraction by the West, because they will understand that without the continent and without black people, it will not be easy for them to survive. But the thinking is there, and it is backed by action globally. So you had the decade of the diaspora, or the decade of African return. Ghana, for example, has welcomed, and you see it, it's on YouTube, hundreds of people from the region as Ghanaians, and that is continuing otherwise. So a lot of things are happening openly, I dare say. And I've seen and heard the Africans, like I said, I literally, well, virtually live on a continent, where you find these leaders of African states are saying to the Western leaders, you know, the game has to change. The playbook has to be rewritten. We now need a new way. And we are going to do things, you talk about the African currency, which the late Gaddafi wanted to institute. So a lot of that is being, they say, for example, why do we have to trade in US dollars? And you hear that openly. It's on YouTube. You look at it. You know, we need to stop this thing. So a new thinking is happening, and there is also the action, because you can think and not act, but there's action simultaneously to have that happen. So I say I'm happy to be living at that time, notwithstanding all what's happening in the world, but I'm living at a time where I can see the consolidation of African thinking, but more has to be done, particularly in small island states like ours, where we need to revamp the education system. We need to be teaching. I mean, we went to St. Mary's College, you two went to St. Mary's College, Castries Comprehensive. We learned about Hawkins, Drakes, and all of them. Never learned anything about our own people. We need to have our authors write a book, because if you write my history, you write it from your perspective. We need to write our own history. And the information is available. There's an overabundance of literature on the internet, in other libraries all over the world, where we need to teach our folks to be proud of themselves and who they are. And in so doing, I want to posit that the crimes, the black and black crime and all of these things happening, they will diminish, because I'm not saying if it works for me, it could work for everybody else. I mean, maybe that's too carte blanche. But I can say, if you hold that philosophy, right, then certainly there will be a change, and in a positive direction. The music, I hear music these days, and, you know, it hurts my ears and it hurts my mind. You know, what is it that you're playing out there? Derogatory, denigrating, all sorts of language and so on. When we grew up and we were being fed music from the Bob Marleys and them, it put us in a different frame of mind. We acted differently. And I did some research. In fact, that's why my thesis at university at my MA level, about the impact of music on one's way of thinking. And it's real. You know, those who want to say otherwise, I mean, the endless papers written on that. So the more positive music we play, you know, I see your DJ here and so on, not putting any figure at him or your yeah, we need to play uplifting music. You know, that is why they tell you if you go to country and western dance, then you won't find no quarrels or hardly likely, because the kind of music doesn't allow for that. If you go into a boom bye and lick him down here and shoot him here and whatever on my gun and, you know, I take no prisoners, that's what you're going to find. You know, it's an easy connect. So as Rastafari, we don't do these things. We don't listen to that kind of music. We don't glorify that kind of music. And what we listen to is things that make us love each other, love your sister, and I mean have your wife as your sister, your children, care for them, not a child and a child. Oh, these things don't happen by mistake, quote unquote, or whatever. But for the most part, you're conscious, okay, but you're taking care of your child, you're raising your child, and so on. So Rastafari has done that for me. And I do believe that it can do that for a lot more people. So where have we gone from 45 years ago to now? We have not really progressed in the way that we should. And that's the reality. And I think my brother Simplicity...
But the world has progressed, though, and from what you're saying, of course. And there are certain things that we should certainly be somewhat optimistic about in terms of attitudes, changes of attitudes. So even things like attitudes towards the use of marijuana, the attitudes towards hair, attitudes towards Africa. So certainly there have been some significant shifts. One can say
even diet as well.
Diet as well. Yeah,
I'd like to even elaborate on what Abdai said there. We also have Mutabaruka. You all must check Mutabaruka online.
And he came here recently, right, for emancipation.
Plus, you all must listen to, regardless of they say he's a Muslim, Farrakhan. Right now, Farrakhan agitating hard for black people in America. So, because remember, Farrakhan was a Gavi right. And right now, Farrakhan realized that black people although we have contributed so much to America, we're not even the second class, citizen of America, Can you imagine? We have built America, invention, and today we still way down the strata. So if as Brother Abdai say, listen to Farrakhan, listen to Baruka, and maybe you'll get a lot of consciousness to what's happening black people in the Western Hemisphere today, where we're going and the direction we should take. Because as Brother Abdai say, Africa open her heart and her hands to us. It's we right now to take the initiative. Rastafari, blessings to every brother and sister out there, Farai. Greetings.
We were supposed to have actually also been joined in addition to Simplicity. And Ibdai, what's the name? Abdai.
That means servant of Jah.
Okay. We were also supposed to be joined by Mr. Earl Bousquet, but unfortunately he's got a loss in his family. But he's, of course, been leading the St. Lucia charge on the matter of reparation. And before we close off, because we're almost out of time, that matter of reparation is still vital for the argument, you think, and for Rastafari?
I will tackle that. I will tell the public that if IREA, it's the entity, is we that would be fighting for that cause, because from the advent of Rasta in the Caribbean, Rasta have been advocating for reparation and repatriation that have been part. And I tell myself I want to challenge what Dr. Beckles on that, because the situation definitely, we have to understand that the ethnicity is so broad within the Caribbean. So when you're talking about reparation, how would these funds be reimbursed? We have a problem. Up north, these guys never discuss. Right now, my approach to that is that we have to check the situation in the Caribbean. First, we need an apology from the white people. Second, we need them to open their archives to show us that where we come from, because a lot of us come from different parts of Africa. And third, come in the Caribbean and check how we live in. Some people living in ghetto, help us, because you can't give the politicians no money. Uplift black people, the standard of living, give us proper education like you all do the Japanese, that we could help ourselves. We don't want to depend on you all. Teach us the proper thing. That's what we're asking, because you all never give us the equal playing field. After slavery, you all never give us nothing. You all gave the indentured servants land, you all just pack us in them little, what they call it, them Bantustan or what they call it, Canaries, waiting by the sea, all the land, when the indentured servant got land, all the land back to colonialists, black people got nothing. So when they're talking about money, the politicians want, we don't want the money, we want to come and check what's happening to us in the Caribbean, help black people. Our education system needs revamping, definitely, that we could help ourselves. The way America helped Japan after World War II, help us in the Caribbean. The Europeans need, and I want to say that the Portuguese, you all need to come and show us, give us the amount of people you all dump in the sea. Because people have to talk for these people too, They're only talking about those that survive, but how about those you all dump in the sea? The Portuguese, they owe us an apology. Because during them time, they didn't have nothing like what they call radar. So man used to just take a portion of slaves. When they reach in the ocean, bad weather, dump the slaves. They're not even taking out the chains, dump them. They dump them. So right now, these things have to be spoken about. Not only talk about reparation and this, all these things that will come out. Don't talk about one side, we have to talk about those they dump too. So these guys owe us an apology, and they owe us to better our race.
And rediscovering our past, reparation, repatriation, and rediscovering our past. It's certainly all very important. Gentlemen, it's been a very, very enriching conversation, edifying conversation. But unfortunately, we've come to the end of our program. We don't have enough any more time. But hopefully, we can continue the conversation later on at some other point. Of course, we've been speaking to representatives of the Foundation for the Improvement of Rastafari, Elders Fire, Simplicity, Mr. Michael Mafre, and Abdai, Mr. Lucius Doxery Sr., Public Relations Representatives of FIRE. Thank you so very, very much.
I wanted to say that my brother passed away and I feel so sad. My big brother, although he lives life like a candle in the wind, but you all know him as Bora. He passed away, But
Condolences.
yesterday I feel sorry, but the way he lived his life, I can't do nothing for him.
All right, thank.
May his soul rest in peace.
Our condolences to you, certainly, and of course, as well, our sympathies to Mr. Earl Bousquet, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it. But of course, we'll be back hopefully tomorrow, God willing, for another program of the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Have a good one.